Well, wouldn't you know it, the Are the X-Men woke debate rages on, and there's more content to respond to.
And here we go.
1 second.
You fucking with me?
No. You should actually limber up as well. Especially if we're going down that hill.
Let's get started, and remember, if you like this kind of content, go ahead and like and subscribe, check me out on Twitter, and stay tuned for callsign Orion #1 on Fund My Comic. What is Fund My Comic? Just the best indie comic book site out there. Go check it out.
Let us imagine a figure I'll call the skeptical fan. Our skeptical fan might see absolute continuity being argued for, when the fact is that something has changed. Morph wasn't explicitly non-binary, and now they are. They might see claims being made about authorial intention that aren't technically right. And they might see the people making those claims asserting that the people disagreeing are just like the Friends of Humanity, are a hate mob. Well, that isn't right. They're not a bigot. They're just not getting on board with technically incorrect claims. And if that makes the progressives online lump them in with the fictional hate group, well, maybe they've lumped some other people in wrongly too.
You've so far done a good job of describing people like me.
I hear you've been looking for me. I'm flattered.
And I want to assume goodwill, which is hard to do when you call us names.
Christian fundamentalism and waspy white nationalism, their brain is made of soup.
I'm just a simpleton right-winger, but I'll do my best to respond to British fancy man's argument. During the course of his argument, Mr. Pillar of Garbage makes a lot of moral claims, with the presumption that these claims are properly basic beliefs.
This character type isn't unproblematic. Would it not be better if we had some non-binary characters who were just guys? Non-shapeshifter, non-alien guys? When you're accustomed to privilege, here the privilege of your experience being the default, that disappearing, even for a moment, can feel like oppression. The X mindset isn't that we're all the same, really, that every identity is simply a variation on some God-given norm that we all need to orient ourselves around to the detriment of everything else. No, it's that people are different, but they all deserve dignity, respect, and the opportunity to coexist, and to coexist with those differences intact, without them being filed down to fit into society's norms.
Moral claims are claims about objective truth, at least traditionally. And if you're going to make moral claims, then we need some kind of common ground for objective claims to be made.
It strikes me with a lot of young people, and I think this is enormously to their credit and goes to the heart, I think, of what you're saying. They're told that all morality is relative. They don't live that way. They're actually looking for truth, aren't they?
We say things like, well, you're not living up to your potential. And persons go, so yeah, well, I know. It's like, well, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Well, you mean there's more to you than meets the eye. Even though it's not measurable, right? It's not tangible. It's just possibility. But everyone acts as though that's a reality. And we all act as if we make choices about what reality to bring into being. We punish ourselves for our moral errors and other people as well. We act out this ethic that puts us each at the center of being as active participants in the world that we want to bring forward. Everyone acts that way. And if we don't, then things go to hell instantly.
So much of the problem with people talking past each other during this debate is because people don't have that common ground, and we reject a lot of each other's definitions. So what is our working definition of woke?
And so the only workable definition for wokeness in this sense is a broad and malleable one. To be disabled, non-white or queer or an anti-fascist or a critic of dominant power structures and so on is to be woke.
I'm a critic of a lot of the dominant power structures that came up with the concepts that you just mentioned. Does that make me woke?
I have nipples, Greg. Could you milk me?
Due to our different definitions that result from different worldviews, we are inevitably going to have different ideas on how to show compassion. For example, I'm a firefighter, and my idea of showing compassion looks something like this.
Let me tell you something. Next time I run into a burning building and refuse to bring out anybody who's not the same color as me, that's when you can bring my angry, sober, pink Irish ass back down here. Got it? Going outside for a smoke.
And to that, Pillar of Garbage has the following objection.
The flaw in the idea that the correct thing to do is treat everyone identically regardless of their differences can be shown through a quick thought experiment. Imagine you're a teacher, you're taking your class on a trip, and you've got to provide them dinner. You book a venue and pre-order a healthy and filling meal for the whole class. It's balanced, it's got all your food groups, yada yada yada. On paper, this is a good meal, and it makes sense to choose this option at this restaurant. But then you remember, little Timmy's got celiac disease. The tiniest amount of gluten in his food will seriously wreck his health. And it doesn't matter if you've picked a dish without bread or pasta, because if the chefs even use the same equipment to prepare Timmy's chips as they did some previous guy's beer-battered fish, Timmy's still done for. You need to go to a place with proper celiac accreditation. But okay, sure, we can go there. Everyone can have the same dish there, and it's fine, right? But the only place in town that has that accreditation is the Thai place, and oh no, little Margaret has a peanut allergy. If there's so much as a stray peanut shaving in her dish, her throat's gonna swell up like Mrs. Puff.
Oh, SpongeBob, why?
You ring the place up and they say, apologies, but people come from miles around to try their pad thai. That's their most popular dish, so while it'd probably be fine, you could get a different dish and there shouldn't be any peanut traces in there, they can't guarantee that. So, one size doesn't always fit all. To treat everyone the same is to apply one approach to all, and to do this, you have to choose one approach and establish it as the norm. And the moment you do that, you're disadvantaging everyone for whom that approach isn't specifically tailored. Now, you can treat the whole class equally here, even Timmy, even Margaret, but you do that not by treating them identically, but by affording both the opportunity to eat something they can process, the same liberty you're affording to their gastrotypical classmates. You include them not by forcing them to fit the same mold as the norm set by your class's majority, but by being aware that their lived experience isn't the same in a way they didn't choose, and by making allowances for that. Maybe that means you have to go to two places, and maybe that's boring for the rest of the class. Maybe the rest of the class gets fed up. Maybe they feel like they're now at a disadvantage, like they've got it the worst, because they're only seeing this, the time they had to wait around one night, instead of seeing all the other nights Timmy and Margaret got sick or went hungry.
An allergic reaction, you say? During my time in EMS, I have treated more than one of those. But all Fancy Garbage Man accomplishes here is to make a straw man argument. Good medicine isn't just based on scientific fact, but moral fact.
Everybody counts, or nobody counts.
Everyone deserves care. Providers should do no harm. These are facts that always apply. Mr. Garbage Man confuses the tactics of adequately carrying out care with the overarching strategy of giving care to everybody. Just because I change tactics in certain situations doesn't mean I am abandoning my strategy. In medicine, it's usually as simple as giving the right drugs to the right people at the right time. In terms of social interactions and societal norms, it looks something like this.
When a society begins treating folks who have mental illness as though they are representing an objective reality, they are doing no service to the people who actually suffer from a mental illness. My grandfather suffered from schizophrenia, paranoid schizophrenia. He was institutionalized. If the doctors had said to him, Nate, you're fine, we believe that the radio is actually talking to you, that is not a service to him. That would have been terrible for him. So, in interpersonal relationships, if I were out to dinner with a trans person, would I make a point of noting their proper biological sex? No, because that would be impolite. When I'm talking about the general principle of is a man a woman or is a woman a man, the answer is I will say that a man is a man and a woman is a woman and a he is a he and a she is a she. And if I'm in a public debate with somebody, I will say the same thing.
In conclusion, many of us have differing ideas on how to best treat people and show compassion. These differences are based on differences of worldview and how we understand morality. And many of us choose to not be woke, because wokeness is garbage.
O velho transformou o mito das raças tristes em minotauros. Júnior Cigano, em José Aldo e outro machista. Foda, foda, foda.